I guess all it took was a conference change to get Oregon back to the college football playoff, because that's exactly what's going to happen in their first year in the Big Ten. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. So glad you could join us today to break down the Oregon Ducks, their schedule, their record for this upcoming season. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our exclusive expert picks, some of the best spread picks in the entire country for one of the lowest prices in the country. You do not want to miss out on that, guys. We want you to take advantage of it. Win big with us this season. And take advantage of our weekly newsletters for exclusive content year-round here at our channel. Everything down in the description below for you so you become a member of our GE Nation and maximize your college football experience this season. So I love this Oregon team, guys. We've talked about them a lot throughout our Big Ten predictions. This is a team that is not just a national title contender, but a national title favorite. And I really do believe this is a college football playoff team, and I believe it's kind of funny. You know, the Ducks made the inaugural college football playoff back in 2014, made the national championship, played against Ohio State, who they're now in the same conference with, and lost that game. Ducks haven't been back since. They've been close. One win away last year against Washington in the Pac-12 championship. They lost, fell just short. 2022, they were number 6 in the country, looking like a playoff team. Lost to Washington late in the year at home. 2021, they were 9-1, number 4 in the country, but lost 38-7 at Utah late in the year. Those hopes are ruined. 3 years in a row that Oregon has been really one win away from the playoff and has fallen short. So now this change of scenery in the Big Ten might be exactly what the doctor ordered. That, and of course, the 12-team playoff helps quite a bit too. But you take a look at Oregon, guys. I love this team. Dan Lanning, 22-5 during his time in Eugene, and he has loaded this team up to make a run for a title. The offense averaged 44.2 points per game last year. And yes, they lose Bo Nix. Yes, they lose Bucky Irving. Yes, they lose Troy Franklin. But they pretty much replaced all those guys. Maybe some would say with better players. Dylan Gabriel comes in at quarterback. The transfer from Oklahoma, also played at UCF. Over 14,000 yards and 122 touchdowns in his career. What an upgrade. What a guy to come in and try to lead Oregon to a national title. He is absolutely a Heisman Trophy contender, maybe the favorite for some. So Dylan Gabriel, massive at quarterback. They've got Jordan James at running back, rushed for 759 yards, 11 touchdowns last year, and Noah Whittington returning after suffering an injury last year. Tez Johnson returns at wide receiver after 1,100 yards last year and 10 touchdowns. They got Trayshawn Holden returning after 450 yards last year. Evan Stewart coming in after 1,000 yards at Texas A&M. Speedy wide receiver Evan Stewart, and their tight end, Terrence Ferguson. This is a loaded Oregon team, and their offensive line has 144 combined starts. The offense has an opportunity to be just as good, if not better, than the one we saw last season. Defensively, loaded as well. 9 starters back on that side of the ball. They only gave up 16.5 points per game in 2023, only 318 total yards per game. And what do they not have? That's really what you should be asking yourself. They've got Jeffrey Bassa back up front, 71 tackles at linebacker. The secondary is absolutely insane with Tysheen Johnson, the number 3 tackler from last year. He's returning, along with 2 massive transfers, and the safety, Kobe Savage from Kansas State. And then stealing a rival, Jabbar Muhammad coming in from Washington, one of the best cornerbacks, not just in the Pac-12 last year, but in the nation. He comes into Oregon, and the defensive line loading up on transfers as well. Guys like Jordan Birch from South Carolina, 105 tackles during his career with the Gamecocks. Derek Harmon in up front from Michigan State. This team is loaded at all 3 levels. The offense will be one of the best in the country, and the schedule was very, very favorable to Oregon in their first year in the Big Ten. I will tell you right now that the Ducks will start 5-0. Let's just jump to it. Everybody's got that Ohio State game circled on October 12th. And really for Oregon, I feel like this season comes down to 2 games. It comes down to Ohio State on October 12th, and it comes down to Michigan on November 2nd. I really believe that the majority of the other teams, Oregon really is significantly better than. That's why we jumped to that 5-0 conclusion. They'll cruise past Idaho. They've never defeated Boise State, who will be one of the best group of 5 teams in the nation last year. Could see the Broncos get into the college football playoff as that highest-ranked Group of 5 champion, but they will beat Boise State for the first time on September 7th. Should be a fun one there. They will beat Oregon State, who is now just kind of an independent, kind of an honorary Mountain West Conference member, but kind of a rebuilding period for Oregon State as they try to figure out their future. Oregon won 31-7 last year, has won 13 of the last 16 meetings against the Beavers. That game, like last year, will not be even close. Coming out of the bye week, they play UCLA. Their first conference game comes against an old conference foe. UCLA and Oregon, both members of the Big Ten, were Pac-12 members last year. So really 2 Pac-12 teams now meeting as Big Ten teams in their first conference game. They will cruise past UCLA, though. They've won 15 of the last 18 against the Bruins. They've got a new coach, questions on defense, and then Michigan State, kind of the same deal here. Jonathan Smith, the former Oregon State head coach, cannot avoid Oregon again. Still has to face them, and now has to face them with a horrendous offense and what is a major rebuilding project in East Lansing. So 5-0. Then Ohio State. That's massive. That could go down as the game of the year in the Big Ten, I would say. Yeah, other games are going to be big too, but this is the one that could be the top 5 matchup. Could be huge. It's going to be huge when it comes to the standings, comes to the playoff race, everything about it. And I love this Ohio State team. We've already predicted them, right? And I love this Ohio State team. They are loaded from top to bottom. They went all in, kind of similar to Oregon, maybe more so, all in on trying to win a national title this year. They use that NIL money. They utilize that transfer portal to load up on both sides of the ball. You've got a veteran quarterback in Will Howard. You've got a defense that could be one of the best in the entire country. Everything about Ohio State screams national title contender in favor. Same for Oregon. But I got to go with the Ducks here. I love this game, but I love this spot for Oregon. Opportunity to make their mark in the Big Ten and say, yeah, we know we've switched conferences and we know Ohio State's been the top dog, but we can immediately compete. Eugene is going to be rocking. I cannot wait to see this atmosphere in what really will be one of the games of the year. Both teams should be 5-0, but ultimately it's home field advantage and Oregon's ability to hang with Ohio State offensively and arguably, to me, owning the offensive advantage in this game. Oregon makes enough big plays offensively to win this game. It will be close. It will be one possession, but the Ducks, behind the strength of their offense and behind the ability of home field advantage, gets the win over Ohio State. They are 6-0, and you can make the argument that Oregon should be the number 1 team in the country following their win over the Buckeyes. Coming out of that, they will cruise past Purdue. They will cruise past Illinois. They remain undefeated, 8-0 entering the month of November. But that first game of November is tricky, facing the reigning national champions at the Big House. Now, we know Michigan is not the same team as last year. They lose Harbaugh. They lose McCarthy. They lose Corum. They lose so much on both sides of the ball. But here's the weird thing about Michigan. This is still a dang good team. And this is still a team that has one of the best defenses in the entire country. No doubt about it. And if you look at Oregon, this is going to be their toughest environment they've played in all season long. Ohio State will be the best team they've faced all year long, but their road games are Oregon State, UCLA, and Purdue prior to playing Michigan. None of those are tough places to play. None of those are going to be difficult for the Ducks to handle. But Michigan will be. And if this Michigan game had been played earlier in the year as the Wolverines are still trying to figure things out with a new coach and a new offense, I might lean more towards Oregon. But later in the year, I expect the Wolverines to have figured things out. I expect the offense to be firing on all cylinders. The defense, I don't really think is going to miss much of a beat this year. And I think the Ducks fall. And they get rattled a little bit by the Big House. We've seen it time and time again the last 3 years. Late in the season, Oregon's looking good, and they slip up in a game that maybe they shouldn't, or they slip up in a must-win game. That game is Michigan on November 2nd. It's not detrimental because the 12-team playoff is still a thing, but Michigan gets the job done behind home field advantage and the strength of their defense. They rattle Dillon Gabriel. This offense does not have as much success as maybe they have against Ohio State or those other previous opponents. The Wolverines get the job done, keep their Big Ten title and playoff hopes alive. In Oregon, kind of having to rally now to make sure they don't slip up anywhere else or the Final 3, because one loss, you're still getting in. And they're still in the hunt for a Big Ten title, only one conference loss. But they can't afford to slip up anywhere else. They will cruise past Maryland, I will tell you that. So they bounce back in a big way with a win over Maryland. The road game at Wisconsin is tricky for me. It's a trap game. Madison is not an easy place to play. They are 3-3 all-time against Wisconsin with a handful of Rose Bowl meetings in there, including that 2019 meeting, which Oregon won 28-27. The last 5 meetings between Wisconsin and Oregon have been decided by one possession. Now, that really doesn't mean much. It's just history for you. But I do think Wisconsin's going to be relatively solid this year. They're inconsistent, but they've got improved quarterback play. They're going to have one of the best defenses in this conference. They're going to be hungry to pull off a massive upset that could drastically shake up the playoff rankings. But I don't think they can get it done. Oregon owns the massive, and I mean massive, offensive advantage coming into this game. Their defense is still really, really good. One could argue they're better than Wisconsin's, or at least on the same level. I think they can overcome the road woes here. I think they learn a lot from that Michigan game, facing a Michigan team that's going to have a stingy offense. It's going to have a tough environment. They learn a lot from that game. They don't make the same mistakes now in a very similar game against Wisconsin. They beat the Badgers. Coming out of their bye week, the season finale, they take on Washington, and they destroy the Huskies. A Washington team that loses so much from last year's squad that was the national runner-up. And Oregon, they don't care about that. They don't care who's on the roster. All they know is that for 2 years in a row, Washington has ruined their season. Oregon lost to Washington in 2022 in Eugene. They lost to the Huskies last year in Seattle. And then in a win-or-go-home game for both teams in the Pac-12 championship last year, the Ducks fell again. So 2 years in a row, Washington has ended their playoff hopes. That will not be the case this year. Off that week of rest at home, Oregon takes out some frustrations. They destroy Washington in Big Ten play and finish the year at 11-1. That's how good I think this Oregon team is, guys. They are loaded with talent from top to bottom. There's really no clear weakness on this team. The schedule lines up perfectly for them. The season, as we mentioned, comes down to Ohio State and Michigan. They should be favored heavily in just about every other game they play. They are significantly better than every other opponent they play. 11-1 should be good enough to get Oregon to the Big Ten championship game. Obviously, if they win that, they will get a first-round bye in the college football playoff. If they lose that, it's unfortunate. They're still in the 12-team playoff and have a very good chance to host a game in the first round. But regardless, the Ducks will be back in the playoff for the first time since 2014, and they have an excellent, excellent shot at going all the way and winning a national championship. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to those expert picks and those weekly newsletters. Check it all out and become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.